speaking of people that work in the nonprofit space, so people in this space tend to do so out of a sense of duty or service, right? And sometimes there's this kind of concept of martyrdom, like in the nonprofit space.
Sure, sure.
How can leaders create a work environment which capitalizes on the sense of duty without taking advantage of staff or self, frankly?
I think this is a really sensitive but an important area. I think number one, leaders need to be passionate about what they're doing themselves, and they need to be able to project that to their staff. I
Mhm.
think they also need to be actually very inclusive in how they hire staff. I think the more that people feel that they are part of something bigger than themselves, the more apt they are, one, to want to work for you and to continue that kind of passion. I think the other is, I think it's important to understand and be very people oriented. I think you need to understand and be sensitive to the fact that sometimes people need a pat on the back. Sometimes people need to recognize they don't go into a nonprofit to make money. They don't go into it for the purpose of
No.
enriching themselves. And I
Mhm.
think that and sometimes in the nonprofit world, because of that, their self-worth can take a beating, and
Mhm.
constantly being reinforced that they're doing a great job, that you recognize the little things that they do, that it's important that they constantly get that constant reinforcement. But again, you have to be the kind of person that values people, that values the contribution that they make to your organization, and communicate that in an effective way, both publicly as well as privately.
Yeah, I love that. One of the takeaways that I had when I've, managed people, now I manage many people, but I started in public accounting, and there was always this kind of, it's a very cutthroat, very competitive environment. And really there's not a whole lot of pats on the back because it's just
Right.
expected, right? And I think sometimes people think that's a generational thing. Oh, these younger kids, they just want constant pats on the back. It's like, well, it's probably true. However, what I've realized in my experience is people just want to know where they stand, because I think overwhelming majority of people want to actually be successful, want to actually do well in their job, and they don't always know if they're performing within expectations or not. And so that constant feedback, constructive feedback, not always positive, not an attaboy all the time, but just an ongoing conversation about performance and expectations and responsibilities goes a really long way with all people I've found, not just that I've not found it to be a generation specific thing. I think people are not necessarily used to that, but people appreciate it once they start getting that ongoing communication dialogue, like you were saying.
I've learned two things about people. One is we're really children in adult bodies. And
Yes.
second, when you're managing more than five people, you're really managing an adult daycare center. And people constantly, as you say, people have that need. And sometimes the older the person is, the more important it is to give them some feedback and some recognition, because it's easy
Mm,
as you get older to, one, maybe just slide into retirement, or two, feel as if you're underappreciated for the new shiny thing. And we
mm,
all need a pat on the back, no matter
yeah.
who you are, from the president of the United States to the street sweeper. We all need a pat on the back saying "attaboy" and then move on.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I had a woman that reported under me, and she was twice my age, and I was a very young executive at the time. I think I was 28 when I took on my first CFO job, and and I had a very ongoing conversation every month. We're going to talk about performance and goals and deadlines and all the things and where are we at. And she had shared with me, I've never had a boss show more interest in my personal and professional development than you have, in my personal and professional development than you have. And I've been in the career field a lot longer than you have. And so that's what I mean by it's not just a generational thing. You're absolutely right.